Hello there and welcome back to another review. So keeping with that vein of old school British horror movies following on from The Gorgon, which I did sort of crash through that last review, but there wasn't really all that much to say about it, so I sort of wrapped the review up quite quickly. But today I thought we'd have a look at one of my all-time favourites, and that is Night of the Demon, otherwise known as Curse of the Demon, and starring Dana Andrews, Niall MacGinnis and Peggy Cummins, and made all the way back in 1957, based on M.R. James's story Cast in the Ruins. Now, make no mistake, those like with this movie, whilst not exactly hugely successful during the initial release, this movie has since gone on to be highly acclaimed by critics and filmmakers, and rightly so, because I absolutely love this movie. It's one of my all-time favourites, even by some to be considered one of the greatest horror movies of all time. Now, I think the director of this, Jacques, Tourneur, originally didn't want to show the demon on screen, but the producer Howie Chester wanted it, and in all fairness, it's that image of the demon and the way it is sort of like the way it looks and what makes the film so memorable. Now, even though the demon itself is sort of only on screen, you could argue maybe for 90 to 100 seconds, maybe in total 120 seconds at a push, it's that imagery of it that sticks with you. It's an absolutely fantastic design, and what's even more amazing is that even now it doesn't look cheap or tacky. Like, it still is a very, very terrifying image. Like, I think there's no mistake with this movie. I think Tourneur, who actually, and the producer of this, Howie Chester, I think they butted heads a hell of a lot. I think even in regards to the demon scenes, I don't even think it was Jacques Tourneur who actually directed these. I think they were going to use even Ray Harryhausen at one point, for sort of the animation and things like that originally for the look, but he was busy with the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. You know, Ray Harryhausen, most famous probably for his last movie, I think, was, Clash of the Titans. Now, I think it's well documented, as I mentioned, that there were many arguments between director and producer and the production of this movie, even to the point where I think even Dana Andrews was even going to walk off set if the producer didn't stop intervening and sort of let the director just do his job. And like I say, the director originally didn't want to show the demon, but sometimes, like with everything, when the producers keep putting their opinions across and do it this way, do it this way, do it this way, sometimes once in a blue moon they might be right. And I think having the demon in it, I think has made, in many ways, although like I mentioned the demon is not on screen that long, I think it's that image of the demon that is on the cover of the DVD, it's on the cover of the poster, it's on the cover of the Blu-ray. I think that is what you largely remember and think of when you think of this movie, is the image of that demon. And like I say, it really holds up really well. It doesn't appear too tacky, and I think, like I say, by and large, this is 1957, but I think Dana Andrews at one point was even willing to walk off set. Such was sort of the arguments that were sort of happening at the time. But despite the appearance of the demon, whether you feel it was warranted or not, the film just draws you in. It throws in things like the occult, witchcraft, hexes, curses, demonology, seances, possession, you name it. And it's one of these movies to me that it's just perfect from start to finish. Yes, I have my favourite movies like we all do. I have, movies that I love, movies that I don't love so much, but there's a handful of movies that I can say are sort of perfect. From start to finish, and I think in many ways Night of the Demon is one of their movies. I think even Martin Scorsese has gone on to say it's one of his favourite horror movies of all time. And like I keep saying, the fact this was 1957, and although not doing that well initially, it's amazing when you watch it how ahead of its time it is, and the whole cast put in amazing performances. And top that off with the fact the movie is in black and white, that sense the whole time sort of our protagonist is cursed, the absolutely amazing imagery and the atmosphere that the film evokes. And you have one hell of a classic horror movie, believe you me. And I first saw this probably when I was about 15 when I saw it, and I've loved it ever since, because I remember seeing the cover to it. I think it was online or something, probably not online, I was too young to be online, but I saw the cover of it somewhere, and I was just like, I've got to see that movie, because it was the demon, right? It's like, I've got to see what that, and it was like, it's really weird, because the rating of it was not that bad, and it's like, children could watch it, child could watch it, and I was like, sort of, I've got to know what this film is. But I've watched it so many times since, and I still love it. It's one of these movies that I could watch probably every month and still absolutely love it. I've seen it time and time again. It's one of these movies, you know, sometimes if you have your favourite movies, you see them so much you almost can you can almost not recite them by heart, but you know exactly what's coming. You can always go through if you were closing your eyes, you could go through the image, the film, like scene by scene in your head, no problem. So the film opens with us, like the audience, getting told about the demons of hell and witchcraft, with some very eerie shots of Stonehenge, and this heavy old school music, like dramatic music score kicks in. And why does sometimes a movie, when it's black and white, make it seem creepier? I don't know why, it just does. And I think if this was like in black and white, I don't think it would have the same effect as what it does. I think the black and white aids the film so much. So this guy, Professor Harrington, played by Maurice Denham, is speeding along this poorly lit road at night with all these trees and forests surrounding him. Already atmosphere, you're sucked in. He's urgently driving along, he's panicking, he's like, you're wondering why on earth he's driving this fast this late at night. And he arrives at Carswell's, who he's sort of investigating, because Carswell sort of has a devil cult, and he wants him to call it off, whatever he has started. And Carswell quickly says he will do what he can, and quickly asks him to leave. So, as the audience, you've only just been introduced to these characters. You've only just been introduced, but Carswell sort of looks at the clock, and he's like, right, okay, I'll do what I can, but you really had better go now. So whilst parking his car, Harrington, he gets home. Whilst parking his car, the demon comes for Harrington. Despite the film being a PG here in the UK, the image of the demon will probably scare a lot of young children. So if you are watching this with young kids, just be mindful that this image of the demon is pretty scary. It probably would be scary for somebody quite young. So just the noise, the thunder, the look, how eerie it is, it's just awesome. It really is just awesome. So Holden, played by Dana Andrews, he's sort of an American psychologist and is informed by Harrington's assistant Williamson at the airport that Harrington was found dead. We also meet O'Brien and Kumar, who are also sort of helping Holden. They meet him at his hotel, though these two really don't have much to do throughout the whole movie. They may as well not be there. They're just sort of helping him. They're on his team, but they don't really do anything. So in order to expose Carswell's cult, which again is what I love, you've got this guy, he's running a devil cult. This guy Holden's been sent in to sort of expose it. And Holden is like, just break down his followers, right? Just question them to expose it. One of them will break down and reveal the truth and what's going on. However, the one person that was open to questioning, Rand Hobart, has gone insane. Carswell meets Holden at the library and gives him his card, and unbeknownst to him, also a parchment. So he's trying to curse him, so the demon will basically come for him, but he sort of slips him this parchment. Holden sees writing on the card when there isn't any, and he sort of feels dizzy and and it's a brilliant scene, wonderful scene in the library between the two leads here. As I say, so he sees writing, he goes all dizzy, and he goes to get the card analysed. And I love how when he phones this guy up, he's like, I can do some tests, but it'll take some time. And Holden's like, how much time? And he's like, tonight? Like, you think it's going to be a long time, but it's like, God, that's a hell of a long wait. I can get the results this evening. It's like, but it's going to take time. But it's like, no, you've only got to wait a few hours and you're going to have the results. So at Harrington's funeral, Holden meets Joanna, who he also met on the plane, though he didn't know it was Harrington's niece. And he's like, call me at my hotel. Though he doesn't actually say what one, but we'll forget that. We'll forget this film, all the plot holes that it does have. And there's a few, but there's not many glaringly massive plot holes. But he does say call me at my hotel. There's no way on earth she would probably know what one he's staying at, so we'll forget that. So after reading her uncle's diary, she believes her uncle was cursed by this parchment, and she also believes that Holden is too. Though the great thing about Holden, Dana Andrews' character, is he's such a skeptic and in complete denial. And for the bulk of the movie, up until right the end of the movie, he is in denial about all of this, all the occult, all the demonology. It's that old thing the supernatural against science. And as the film goes on, all these curses and demons get very, very, very real for Holden. But he doesn't believe in the supernatural. He's all about science, what you can see, what's in front of you. So they go to visit Carswell at sort of his estate, and it makes you laugh. He's renowned, right? This guy is renowned for having a devil cult, but he's allowed to have a party for the local children. He's allowed to have a party for the local children. Now, the only way I can sort of explain that, or the way I could sort of let the film off that, I mean, if this guy's renowned for having a cult, a demon devil cult no less, I don't see why he would be allowed to entertain the local children. But My theory is, unless of course like their parents are part of this cult, is all I can think of. Because like at one point Carswell does say when he meets Harrington at the start, he says me and my followers, but you never actually see any of his followers. But you can only assume these children, or the way I always took it was, these are children of his followers. But anyway, we don't actually see them. So Carswell makes this storm happen to prove his power, and it's really done amazingly well. Again, a wonderful, and that's another thing with this movie. There's so many scenes that stick with you. Like I said, the library scene, the storm happening here, the scene that's to come where Holden sort of breaks into Carswell's estate. All these things, they all do stick with you. In many ways, they're sort of like set pieces, but every scene, for the most part, is quite memorable. It really is memorable. So it's like they say, there's chairs going everywhere and everything else. And he informs Holden he will die in 3 days. Because remember, he slipped in this sort of like parchment in the library. And you have to love in these old classic movies, like especially the British classic movies, like they're so civil and polite. Even when threatening like each other with murder, everything's done in such a graceful, dignified way. So that night, Holden hears the sound of the demon in the hallway and finds all the pages after the 28th in his diary have been ripped out. He finds the parchment eventually in his briefcase, then goes to visit the Hobart family on a farm, so they agree to let Holden sort of hypnotise Rand Hobart to find out what he knows about Carswell, right? So it's all, again, quite really good plot, really, you know, it really does suck you in. It keeps going. It's not like it just sticks to its laurels. It keeps forever changing and evolving. There's more twists and turns as the film goes on, and it's the unpredictable nature of the movie, and like I say, the idea of witchcraft and the occult and, you know, all these kind of things thrown in. You're never really sure if you're watching it the first time where the movie is going to go or what is actually going to happen at the end of the movie. But as I say, she wants to sort of hypnotise like Rand Hobart to find out what he knows about Carswell, or just basically extract some information so they can hopefully get something from him that will expose the cult. So Carswell's mum wants to help Holden and Joanna, and she invites them along to like this seance, which Holden, again, even at this point, he still thinks is a load of baloney, even though the guy doing the seance, he does Harrington's voice. Well, it is Harrington's voice, and he's warning him off, but like Holden is having none of it. Then they go to back to like Carswell's estate, and Holden is like, he goes, I'll just walk through the woods, right? Bearing in mind, this is a guy with a devil cult. Right, he goes, I'll just walk through the woods. And it's like, at night, through the woods, on the estate of someone who is in a devil coat, and he's put a curse on you as well. It's like, no thanks. I wouldn't do that. If this guy's even potentially put a hex on me or something, I would not want to be walking through the woods near his estate at night. So it's quite creepy when he gets in, as you think he's alone, but you keep seeing like this hand on the banister as well, and it is quite eerie and sort of the way it's shot, because it's sort of always behind him. He gets attacked by this like leopard that turns into just a normal cat, and then Carswell turns up again, all very civil, but still mentioning that, you know, you're still going to die. So when Holden leaves, very good effect of these like footprints appearing in the ground. That it's done really, really well. And it's one of them movies that I really, you know, like my view on remakes and rehashes and reboots, I'm never usually in favour of them, unless it's sort of warranted and like the original really wasn't that good. But like this one here, it's one of them. I really hope they never remake it. It's like the film needs to be just left alone, you know. And it's just perfect the way it is, you know. And I hate it, and it's such a really sort of, it just shows sometimes that Hollywood, unfortunately, for the most part, is lacking a lot of imagination and a lot of originality nowadays, because there's so many films they remake or reboot or rehash that really didn't need doing, or there's sequels that are done that nobody wanted at all. Like the franchise was done, it's like, oh, they're doing another one of them. It's because the studios know it's going to be a surefire hit, right? So it's like, oh, well, it's got the brand attached to it. Hopefully we'll make some money that way. But it just reeks of just desperation to me. But the point I'm trying to make here is like, this is a classic British horror film to me. And I just really hope they never remake it. You know, like they made, I'll tell you another fine example of that is when they remade The Haunting. Do you remember The Haunting when they remade it with Liam Neeson, Catherine Zeta-Jones in around 1999 time? And again, another classic horror movie, classic black and white horror. And they remade it, and it was awful. It was absolutely awful, and that's what they would do with this. They would overuse the CGI. The film wouldn't suck you in as much, and they'd probably have Ben Affleck in the lead or something. I don't know. Not saying anything bad about Ben Affleck, but you know what I mean. It would just be a complete misfire, sort of on all fronts. But what I'm trying to say is, I just hope they never remake this movie. I just want it to be left alone because it's perfect the way it is. So, going back to where we were, he sees like these footprints, but he also has like this ball of flame and smoke chasing after him as well. And I can't stress enough just for its time, just how eerie the film is. Holden, even after all this, thinks it was just theatrics. Like I say, still in denial, and it was just a trick. He's like, oh, it's probably just one of Carswell's tricks. So him and O'Brien begin to hypnotise Hobart, played by Brian Wilde, who, after saying he had a parchment, but to save himself, he gave it to the one who gave it to him. So in other words, if you get the parchment, if you pass it back, then you're going to be fine. But anyway, let's slip this information, then he just randomly jumps out of a window. Okay, just jumps out of a window. So Carswell, this is where sort of we get to the end of the movie. Carswell sort of hypnotised Joanna on this train, and now Holden, it's really clever, is like trying to give him the parchment back, and and I love how Carswell won't accept anything from him, like a letter, his matches, because he knows what he's trying to do, right? He knows, he's like, no, I don't want to take that. So he manages, and again, eventually Holden manages to slip in the parchment, which gets destroyed sort of on the railway line, and we get one last appearance from our monstrous, scary demon, who of course kills Carswell, and sort of that wraps up the movie as sort of Holden and Joanna sort of walk off. And like I say, if you saw this as a kid, you probably would have been terrified, as the demon looks better than it has any right to. And as I say, it ends with sort of them just walking off into the distance. But what a movie. I mean, I can always watch it. I've always loved it. It's a great cast. It's a great atmosphere. It's great effects. It's a great story. It holds your attention. And like I say, if you want, when people say landmark British horror, they just go to, the obvious ones, The Shining, The Exorcist, the usual stuff. But if you want sort of your, some classic old school like British horror, really done well with loads of atmosphere, great effects, everything and in between, please go and check out Night of the Demon or Curse of the Demon, because it's absolutely amazing. And like I say, I'm not just saying this to sort of hop on the bandwagon, but there is a reason why this film is acclaimed, and it is over time has been regarded as one of the best horror films of all time. It's not like you're going to be jumping out your seat, it's not anything like that, but in terms of atmosphere, and I think that going back to what I said in like my Gorgon review, a film doesn't have to be, I don't have to be jumping out of my seat during a horror movie to make it a good horror movie. A horror movie can be many different things, and it can be sometimes just the sense of atmosphere, like what an eerie sensation, whatever it may be. It can be just a sense of mood, and Night of the Demon has that in spades. And it, like I say, the demon looks fantastic to top it all off. We get a great cast, everybody plays their part brilliantly, and like I say, the fact it's in black and white aids it so much. As you can probably tell, I cannot praise it enough. So if you like your horror, you want to check out more old school horror, please go and check out Night of the Demon, because it's an actually awesome movie. But if you have seen the movie, which I hope many of you have, let me know what you think of it, let me know what you like about it, let me know why you think it's so awesome, or maybe, who knows, maybe you've seen it and you don't even like it, and let me know why that is as well. So thank you very much indeed for watching, hope you enjoyed the review, and I'll see you again soon.
Don't concentrate on the finger, or you will miss all that heavenly glory.